A city sleeps unaware. It is London, 1666. The moon hangs over a labyrinth of timber and thatch, a metropolis of crooked alleys and leaning houses. There is a quiet that settles over these streets in the deepest hours of the night, a fragile peace soon to be shattered. This is a story of destruction. It is a tale of how 4 days of fire remade a city forever. It begins not with a roar, but with a whisper. A single forgotten ember in a baker's oven glows with malevolent heat. The Great Fire of London, 1666. The 4 days that destroyed a city and rebuilt history. The year is 1666. London is a tinderbox, a city built of kindling. The summer has been long, hot and dry, leaving the wooden structures brittle and thirsty for a flame. People live packed together, homes, workshops. The air is thick with the smells of coal smoke, river mud, humanity. Disease has stalked these same streets only a year before, the Great Plague leaving a scar on the city's soul. Now a different kind of cleansing is about to begin. A purification by fire, indiscriminate and absolute. The city is holding its breath on the precipice of annihilation. This is the account of that inferno. It is a timeline of catastrophe measured not in days, but in the relentless consumption of streets, churches, homes. We will walk through the smoke-choked lanes and feel the terror of those who fled. We will see the fire through the eyes of those who watched it, powerless. We will witness the failure of old ways and the desperate, futile attempts to contain a force of nature unleashed within the city walls. Before the fire, London was a medieval creature, constrained by its Roman walls, lanes so narrow a cart could barely pass. Buildings leaned over the streets, their upper floors almost touching, creating tunnels that blocked out the sky. Picturesque and a fire marshal's nightmare. Oak frames, wattle and daub, clay, straw. Thatched and wooden roofs, floors strewn with rushes. It started in the dark, deep in the warren of streets north of London Bridge, on a lane named Pudding Lane. Here, in the modest bakery of Thomas Fariner, a simple act of carelessness would have consequences beyond imagination. An oven not fully cooled, a stray spark, finding purchase on a pile of dry firewood. It was a common enough risk in a city of open hearths and candles. But on this night, a strong easterly wind was blowing. This wind would become the fire's greatest ally, turning a small blaze into a raging, city-destroying monster that would not be tamed for 4 terrible days. The fire began its life around 1 o'clock on the morning of Sunday, the 2nd of September. In Thomas Fariner's bakery on Pudding Lane, a servant woke to a house full of smoke. The fire was already established and the stairs were impassable. The Fariner family escaped through an upstairs window across the rooftops to safety. But the servant was too afraid to make the jump. She became the fire's first recorded victim, a small personal tragedy that heralded the immense public disaster to come. The blaze fed on the bakery's wood and the easterly wind, spreading to adjoining buildings. A small thing that set everything in motion. As dawn broke on Sunday, the scale of the disaster became terrifyingly clear. The waterfront ablaze, boats filled with people fleeing. No longer a handful of houses, a front of flame several hundred meters wide. The wind showed no sign of abating. It carried embers high into the air and dropped them on flammable roofs far ahead. New fires sprang up on rooftops, bypassing desperate bucket lines. Local control was slipping away. The fire made its own weather, a powerful updraft, pulling in more air, fanning an ever hotter inferno. Panic set in, streets choked with crowds and carts. Gridlock strangled any organised response. Many fled toward the Thames, boats piled high with furniture, goods and terrified people. From the water they watched the city consumed. Samuel Pepys watched, his own house in danger. So I was called for and got up. Above 300 houses have been burned down tonight. Fish Street and London Bridge on fire. St Magnus destroyed, buildings on the bridge fell, water wheels that pumped the city ruined. The sky glowed apocalyptic red, audible with a constant roar. Buildings collapsed in showers of sparks. It was only the beginning. Monday, the 3rd of September, brought no relief. The wind drove the inferno deeper into the heart of the city. It turned north and west, devouring the financial centre. Gracechurch, Lombard, goldsmiths' shops and bankers' halls. Iron locks and bars melted, though many vaults protected their treasures. Pulling down houses proved ineffective. The fire leapt across gaps. It moved too fast, too hot. King Charles II and James, Duke of York, took personal command, organising demolitions and rallying citizens. By nightfall, the Royal Exchange collapsed into ruin. The front was over a mile wide, an unstoppable tide erasing the city. Throughout the unfolding catastrophe, one man's words give us an intimate, human-scale perspective. Samuel Pepys. A methodical, observant civil servant, he documented the fire's progress. Not grand pronouncements, but immediate, fearful observations of a world on fire. He climbed the Tower of London for a better view and wrote, "I did see the houses at that end of the bridge all on fire, and an infinite great fire on this and the other side, a lamentable fire. It made me weep to see it." He took a boat on the Thames, noting people staying till flames touched them, then running for the stairs and boats. Recognising the Lord Mayor's incompetence, he went to Whitehall and warned King Charles that only pulling down houses could save the city. The King ordered, "Spare no houses." Pepys' initiative brought the Crown decisively into the fight. On Tuesday, he wrote of showers of fire drops and hot coals carried by the wind. He buried his wine and parmesan, watched pigeons hover till their wings burned and they fell, an image of tragic attachment to home. Wednesday, the 5th of September, the fire began to die. The wind dropped. Soldiers and volunteers used gunpowder to carve decisive fire breaks, cornering the monster. The tower was saved from its own stores of powder. The Temple line stopped the fire from reaching Whitehall and Westminster. Yet pockets flared for days, cellars burned like underground furnaces, the ground itself too hot to walk on. The final tally, 13,200 houses, 87 parish churches, the Guildhall, the Royal Exchange, dozens of public buildings, 436 acres laid waste, roughly 80% of the city within the Roman walls. Miraculously, only 6 verified deaths recorded, almost certainly a vast underestimate. An estimated 100,000 left homeless, destitute, hungry, traumatized, in fields at Moorfields and Islington. The King and City organised relief, but the challenge was immense. In the wake of the fire, the first task was to survive. The second was to rebuild. From ashes, a modern London would rise. A blank slate to build safer, healthier, more rational streets. Grand boulevards and classical squares were proposed and rejected as too complex and costly. Sir Christopher Wren, astronomer and architect, would design 52 churches, Baroque elegance reborn. His greatest achievement, the new St Paul's Cathedral, its dome a symbol of resilience and faith. The Rebuilding Act of 1667 mandated brick and stone, wider streets, no overhanging houses. A monumental column near Pudding Lane, the monument, designed by Wren and Robert Hooke, 202 feet tall, the exact distance to the fire's origin. Out of loss came innovation, the birth of modern insurance and organised firefighting. A city learning to think about risk. The Great Fire was a defining moment, unimaginable destruction and profound human suffering. It erased 1,000 years of history in 4 days, yet cauterized the wound, clearing the way for a new beginning. The crowded, disease-ridden, flammable city gave way to streets more spacious, more sanitary, more resilient. A hard lesson in the language of fire, written in ash and stone. London rose again, stronger and more enduring than before. The old London was gone. London was, but is, no more. London was, but is no more.